Good morning, Gardenia. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. We sure did here. Got a lot of work done. New backdrop for the studio, not the finished product. I don't know if you can tell. The audio in here is, oh my gosh, it's about to get better. Forgot that this morning. Had the microphone sitting next to me. Hopefully that gets picked up. But you can still hear there's a little echo in here, but we are ready now. Finally, studio foam, new furniture, very exciting for the Freedom Factory here. And before we do anything else, promos, intros, we've got to do an update on our friend, co-host, crew captain, Stephen McClure, also executive director of Homefront Battle Buddies, still in custody this morning. What happened is he had some outstanding warrants. As far as we know, all for victimless crimes. We have yet to see charging documents, police reports, anything like that. I don't think anyone in the Adam versus the Man crew has that, or that they've been released publicly. They may be in Steve. They probably like, hey, here, while you're in jail, here are these papers to guard from other inmates. But Stephen, we don't know the exact nature of the charges, but he had a bond hearing Friday morning and was denied bond. So basically, we're at the point where we're trying to get attorneys to go and meet with him in jail. He's got his wife Jennifer on the outside, who's doing a great job being in touch with our team, and Fina Benoan possibly taking over as interim director of Homefront Battle Buddies if necessary. I'm still optimistic. I think this is the kind of situation where the government is just biased against individuals, and especially those who at first glance look to a judge like, yeah, you put this guy back in society, you hurt somebody, you get in bigger trouble, that's a possibility. Being armed and, given who knows what nature of the charges they have thrown at him here. We saw 3 of them later Friday. One was, we don't think this is the whole story. It was like terroristic threats, weird speech crimes, like internet stuff. Stephen mentioned at one point he was concerned one might be related to his church freedom activism, and this apparently one of them is from a year ago, based on something he told the cop. We can't confirm any of this. Not a lot of it we've seen in writing. Stephen is definitely holding back something in how he's talking about his case or cases, as the case may be right now, in order to make sure he doesn't create any extra legal liability for himself at a time where it's sensitive for him, where he's being subject to this scrutiny by government prosecutors and the judge. So what I suspect is, first glance, he shows up alone in court, says something, well, hey, I'll go, that just rubs the judge the wrong way, and he's denied bail, didn't have an attorney, wasn't ready going into this. But he turned himself in Thursday night, expecting to at most do an overnight in jail, if not just get, sort of released right away. But definitely to be released Friday at a normal bond hearing. And that was from what he was told. Maybe he made the mistake of trusting government just a little bit. When how much did you trust government? Well, about as far as you can throw it. And Stephen, doesn't seem like a mistake he would make. So there's definitely more to this story. He's not in such a horrific situation that we're panicking so much as going, oh, well, if you're in jail, we need somebody to organize the Homefront Battle Buddies retreat, because at this point it's got more momentum than you. Going to jail would negate, unfortunately, but or fortunately, either one. So that's again why Fina may be stepping up as interim executive director for Homefront Battle Buddies while Stephen is incarcerated. But I'm still 90+% confident that if he gets an attorney to represent him, and just for the bond status, and it hurts to say this. It's so dumb, but this is one of those times where it's like, yeah, fuck, shell out a few grand and hire an attorney to handle the bail bond status thing because they're gonna know the judge. They're no, I got the magic key. I'm not gonna tell you that's trade. I mean, I guess I could, but now you got to pay me for my time, right? But and that's fair. You know, there's this monster called government, and there are these defense attorneys who know how to, in certain circumstances, protect you from it in just the right ways, and their services should be compensated for. Hopefully, we can get one to take his case pro bono just to get him out on bail bond, whatever the situation there is in Georgia, and maybe give him some room to study his case and step back and figure out just exactly what the legal approach is. I don't doubt that from what I hear of the charges and know of the case and of Stephen. I have a good feeling he's going to be able to defend himself through this, and that would be really cool to see. But unfortunately, unless he sees something from the inside that I don't see from here, unfortunately, this looks like one of the situations where, like, yeah, it's probably best to hire an attorney because your time behind bars when you want to be out on bail is very valuable. So the way we're trying to do this, working with Jennifer and other members of the Adam versus the Man team here, is to get a few attorneys to go visit him in jail and make offers. And Jennifer, first one she got to talk to was like, they want $8,500 retainer and $1,000 up front, wow, or $1,000 for the bond situation separately, and it's like
$8,500 retainer.
Yeah, no, make them compete. You know, like no, this is if and this is Georgia. There should be enough lawyers like to make them compete, and so the objective right now is to get 2 or 3 attorneys to visit Stephen in jail and get familiar with the situation and pitch him on hiring them with whatever terms and bond strategy, and then we might be raising money. We might not be, hopefully. And like the bond thing, for an attorney, they would handle that directly. Is maybe a few hours of prep tops and like 1 5-minute hearing in court that they could charge an hour for.
$200.
So like even if they're charging, $400 an hour, which is really high end for attorneys now. Fortunately for a lot of this, I don't know if this is true. I'd like to look at some bigger statistics on this, but if like the price of an attorney in criminal defense, how that price is fluctuated over time, but as I've noticed, I think it's come down. Like the standard used to be more like $500 an hour, and now it's more like $300 an hour. I don't know if that's like true across the board, or that's just my very limited experience. But it's very, just occurred to me the kind of cool effect or weird effect because of the drug war ending and the police state de-escalating, or for in honor of Stephen's situation. Our first block of headline news today is definitely police state related. But as the drug war de-escalates, as the police state de-escalates, as prisons empty out, hopefully, or at least radically reduce their populations. I mean, by somewhere around, 90% would be a reasonable immediate reform. Then we are going to see a lot of lawyers out of a job. Like, all of you leeches that just took advantage of this whole crime flood of bullshit existing to enrich yourselves. Yeah, prosecutors especially, I hope, but they'll have good government pensions and whatnot and contracts. And I mean, there are going to be a lot of prosecutors sitting around going, shit, we're not allowed to just go after people anymore because, yeah, sorry, that's policy now. Or they're going to have to go after real crimes and do more work, like they've been avoiding this. Prosecutors work hard, and they think they're protecting people most of the time, but a lot of times they're just fucking over innocent people, and it's really sad. And hopefully they're not going to be able to do that. And then the cost of attorneys, like this is the thing, is that they're out of a job. There's going to be this period where, and this might account for my observation, I hope already. I mean, we got let's be positive looking back. If we're anticipating de-escalation of the drug war in the police state, have we seen that in the last decade or two? Yeah, probably overall, big subjective thing, hard to measure when cannabis legalization goes up, but drug arrests for cannabis stay flat nationally. Really hard to weigh out. But and for police brutality, it's something that even simple observation of statistics really can't account for, because you might get the statistics that show reported incidents of police brutality, which are going up because they're being recorded and therefore reported more. Just the effect of everybody having cameras connected to the internet, or as we said back in the day, World Wide Web in their pockets, able to stream video and hold cops accountable and post whatever you want at any time. Although I should point out that the First Amendment and the tech giants of the internet have limits on free speech, So with that being said, let's get to producer Jim for updates from the producer. How are you doing this morning, Jim?
What's going on? Good morning to you. Welcome back to Gardenia. Am I correct in assuming we have no comment co-host today?
Actually, we have an in-studio co-host I was about to introduce, and she does not have access to comments. So right, okay. We're about to introduce GI Mary Jane in studio, but we should note that normally we would have we'd have Mercedes for Mental Health Mondays, and she was gracious enough to step aside and let Joey do this. But I didn't think we don't have normal comments. But Jim, I think Jim's like, all right, I got this.
Yeah, I got to click a couple then, I guess. Yeah. CJ was first because he.
we have a pretty packed show with guests and special segment today, so I wasn't really thinking about comments. But Jim, you're on it. You're on it.
Man, I was so glad to see that we had a guest today, and I went through the links. I scrolled through and I was like, oh, that's not bad. This is like the smallest amount of links I've ever seen. What's going on today?
That's why we actually we have two guests today, really.
Yes, pretty much.
Calling them as well. But yeah, hit us with the promos.
Okay, real quick before the promos, I want to point this out. This is funny. Duper says, Adam versus the man, ? Since when? I used to listen to this show religiously every day for hours until you were arrested for the DC thing. This is great. Glad to find this. So apparently this person just found out that you've been broadcasting again since DC. That's a while. We've done a lot of shows since then.
Well, okay. So like after DC was 2014. And then when I got out, was broadcasting from LA and then scattered on the road, but then back here for a full year in consistent production in this format. It's crazy to think, there's so many people. Like, I'll be here. Y'all trickle back in. I'll be here for another decade. I love this format.
Mark Matthew Hurd likes your backdrop. It's a new backdrop. He says, cool backdrop.
Well, we're gonna be replacing it with studio foam, but we can always hang this back up over the foam, and then anything we want over the foam. I don't know. Is it weird that it's like halo effect? It's like
it's cool because dead center of it. Your head is for the smallest circle, so it really looks like one of those pictures. It's funny. Colette Allen, our friend from across the pond. I'd like to just she was pointing out when you were talking about Steven's situation, he said, here you can get legal aid. Well, Colette, technically, sort of here you can too. You can get public defenders and stuff, but I don't know if that actually helps you usually. Public defenders work for the state, so they're inclined to work. They're plea bargain masters. That's all they are. That's it. They work plea bargains, and they will scare you with a maximum sentence into getting a plea bargain. That's a public defender's job.
Well, I assume one way or another, after being denied bail at his first hearing, Stephen was not happy with the performance of any public defenders he may have been provided at that point. And we don't know. I don't know. Somebody knows whether he defended himself or not at that first hearing. But if you're denied bail and had a public defender there, and it depends on the timing, and he might. It's this is one of those times if you can get an attorney to handle bail bond for $1,000 and you have more confidence in them than a public defender, and that gets your odds up from 50-50 to 90-10. That's worth that $1,000.
Yeah,
might be. You might
Right.
want to stay in jail. That's another opportunity or option here always.
So last one, our friend, you've been trolled. There's an attorney on YouTube called the Civil Rights Lawyer. I don't know if he practices in Georgia, but he's always looking for cases. And D. Vincent W. said it's a good idea. Worth, explore all options, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so anybody watching the show right now or in the future when we're not even live no more can join this public Telegram channel that we have. Telegram is a messenger app you can download on your phone or your computer or both and sign in. And it's a really cool messenger app that you can send pictures and videos flawlessly with. That's our public version. Everybody's welcome. Join the conversation. I don't have a contest today because I'm not the comment guy. If your co-host comes up with a contest, then the winners of our daily contest win access into our private producers club, which is a really cool feature on Telegram.
I got a contest, Jim. It's good news for cannabis is the segment we're going to end the show with today. If you get us a story that we haven't covered and we don't have in the pile, I'll preview real quick. Schumer, Senate will act on marijuana legalization with or without Biden. That's Senator Schumer. Koch-backed group joins marijuana push after Zoom with Snoop Dogg. What smoking marijuana every day does to your body. We got some myths that they're still trying to push on us to debunk here. We've got, let's see. Oh, and this is really overall good news in the drug war. We had so much drug war good news that we couldn't cover it all. It wouldn't fit in last week's Friday good news show. So, Insider, a man says psychedelic mushrooms cured his cluster migraines, and researchers believe he could be right. We've got, someone asked, because we were talking about gold and silver.
Oh, keeping the cocaine
versus cash as savings mechanisms. And there was one thing. So, cash or US dollars degrade over time, very similar to the cocaine that you can find in trace amounts on nearly every $100 bill in circulation in the United States. So cocaine now has to be considered as an alternative as a store of value. We have the answer to that as well, and how to do it. And then New Zealand checking the purity of your drugs for you. So if you have a good news drug story that isn't one of those or one that we covered last week, get that in the links, and that will win you membership in the Producers Club.
Nice. Okay.
You have an hour and 12 minutes before we start that segment to get those links to Jim in the comments.
Okay, in the comments. Yeah, I was going to say, if we want, we could direct them to download the public messenger group and link it in there. But that's some work. Up to you.
No, just in the comments. YouTube, Jim will find them. Jim, that's what Jim's watching. Jim can only watch one thing at a time anyway. I mean, 3 things at a time. He is the producer.
Like 8 or 9. So if you want to be a part of the private producers club chat, you can do that through the website, adamversaman.com, like you see at the bottom of the screen. They got a button there that says Patreon. You click that and see the different ways you can support the show. $1, $5, $10, or even $50 a month. $10 a month gets you access to the private producers club chat, which is always a good time. You always got all the links to the show, everything you could need in that private producers club chat. Link to the StreamYard to the backstage of the show every day. After that, go back to the website, adamversaman.com, and check out the shop where your brand new producers club membership is going to get you 15% off of all the items here and free shipping as well. So you won't have to pay to get it to yourself. Great items, great value. You can get the Adam vs. Man logo or the Freedom logo on pretty much anything you want. So give that a check out and get yourself something that you were looking forward to. After that, click on Cigar Federation. It's also a link right there on the AdamVersusMan.com website. You can scroll through their cigars. They got a ton to choose from, and you can use promo code Adam10 while you're there to get 10% off of your entire order, no matter how big or small.
I think we lost Jim.
Did we just lose Jim while I thought I was off camera picking my eye off screen, picking my eyes?
Great timing.
Wrong button. My bad.
Okay. He's
So,
the producer.
Yeah. I'm gonna do what I want. I need a break. No. Lastly, two more things. One, the crypto6.com. Those dudes still need help. Everybody needs lawyers. So let's get these guys help. This was a Bitcoin church that was raided by the terrorists of the United States government, and these are the crypto ways that you can help support them and get them everything they need to beat those charges. Lastly, the last thing I want to bring up for the promos is our good friends that are teaching people how to live off grid or live self-sustaining. That's at gogreenenergyonline.com. Great website resource for all kinds of information on solar power, micro wind power, zero energy homes. Definitely give that website a visit, click around, learn some shit, make yourself more intelligent. Good thing. gogreenenergyonline.com. Back to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us in studio this morning, GI Mary Jane, Joey Lee, and really like just especially for this whole Good News Drug War block at the end of the show. Like, this is really cool. I haven't really felt it until recently, and there are a lot of reasons I feel this that I'm not allowed to say publicly, but when I was like as a younger activist, I fantasized about like a period of not just mental health enlightenment, but drug freedom and that there was this awakening of the 60s. And I hate to sound all hippie, but I don't. I fucking love sounding all hippie. Like, I mean to, right? You know, that there was so I'm growing my hair out finally. But there was there was a period of awakening, a surge of consciousness in the 60s that one way or another went away. Like, there was a feeling, and if you go back and study the 60s and 70s, and I have in a variety of ways, culturally, musically, in social movements. I took a course in college, after all, called I think American Social Movements, and it was like all second half of the 20th century. So it was a really cool class, great background, right? Yeah. And it wasn't just that there were certain shifts happening during that time, but there was a surge in raising of consciousness that, with the suppression of cannabis, went away, or at least went back to baseline levels. And I don't know how much cannabis is solely responsible. I mean, there's more to it than there was. I mean, there's COINTELPRO. Like, why did COINTELPRO work? The counterintelligence program. And it's funny because there's a really appropriate name for it. They are against intelligence, and they are a program. Like, yeah, they're the. And if you don't know COINTELPRO, please go at least read the Wikipedia article. It's a great starting point on the FBI program from the 60s and 70s that was actually intended to render ineffective the anti-war and Black Panther movements. It wasn't to kill Fred Hampton. That was just one way to render him ineffective. And they don't have to assassinate people to do that today. They don't have to arrest them, but they can. I mean, trumped up charges. We found kiddie porn on your computer. We've seen them even try things as kind of uncredible as that.
It's a thing.
But now, and I don't know that if it's being driven by cannabis legalization, or by technology and by the internet now, or both. I mean, these are all confluent dynamics that are driving what I think is like a return to a phase of consciousness or a surge in awareness. It's not just, hey, we're more conscientious now. It's we are more actively pursuing greater consciousness. We are expanding our fields of awareness, and
we're communicating with each other freely about it, more so than when this whole drug war started. You couldn't sit down and you could be sitting in a room with a friend you know smoked weed with you, and you couldn't even talk about it. You couldn't have a discussion. Communication is everything.
I mean, I remember that. We're both well under 40, but just barely. And we, like, you think of like the first half of our lives, even the first 3/4 of our lives, it was prohibition time, and now not so much. I mean, we at least is we were in Kentucky, and it's like last week, and it's like, oh, this is prohibition territory. Like, what a primitive backwoods, backwater bullshit hillbilly hick state, Kentucky. You know, I mean, it's like, not only are they backwoods, crazy, awesome rednecks like that, but they gave us the worst senator and the best senator, Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. That interesting split personality state. I guess in terms of drug prohibition, the Mitch McConnells of Kentucky are still winning.
Unfortunately,
like Prince Philip, we just have to wait for some people to die. But that's okay. We have the time. We are patient. We are patient because we smoke weed. And when you can sit and smoke weed, you can kind of sit through anything. That's why it's very popular in jail. Like, you know, the places you're not allowed to have drugs the most are where you need them the most. So, you know, but there's like a renaissance of consciousness exploration happening right now, and cannabis becoming common and accepted, and the effect of everybody going, well, government's probably full of shit because this isn't what they told me it was, right? It's not even that we all kind of know by now. It's like, yeah, they were lying about that too. A lot, fundamentally a lie. The drug war based on a lie, but also psychedelics, magic mushrooms. They're magic. They are magical. LSD, the MDMA becoming commonly available for people who are able to seek that out and buy with crypto over the internet, right?
Ketamine's a normal thing in your pharmacy, even now, your regular doctor's office, although I don't know how they're prescribing it or how well.
Well, it's a nasal spray now for ketamine, right? They're actually
one of the media, I believe.
They're using this in clinical settings, like it's out of trials already.
I don't know.
Clinical settings.
I know.
We're using it for patients.
I walked out of the dentist office with a prescription for ketamine pill after a tooth extraction because I told them I didn't want the opioid. And kicked and screamed, and I got 3 little itty bitty ketamine pills. And that was his deterrent. No, just take the opioids instead. I can give you more. I can only prescribe you 3 ketamine. Like, great, my mouth's not gonna hurt for that long. It's gonna be okay.
So it's, well, the funny thing is, like, I mean, I'm not for, you know, drug use. I'm for conscientious, life improving, consciousness enhancing drug use. I am for that. If you want to categorize it that, I'm pro drug use. Yes, it's part of being a brain on Earth as a human, that you get to experiment and try different things with your consciousness and make your life better. Even if it's just, even if you decide, hey, my only drug use is going to be, I'm going to occasionally have a couple drinks to loosen up socially. Have that at least in your mind as a conscious policy, and know that it's a positive impact on your life and not something you're doing like, you know, out of habit that's addictive, and that's very dangerous. But the better drugs we get, the less tempted we are to do the bad, the more fun options we have, the less likely we are to fall prey to the petty addictions of things that are legal, like nicotine and alcohol. And it's those addictions that destroy people's lives. And I should mention ayahuasca and DMT as really, and ibogaine, and there are other similar natural psychedelics that are having huge empowering effects, liberating people from addiction.
quite literally.
So on that, Shears, what are you smoking this morning?
What am I smoking this morning? I'm smoking sour banana sherbet.
Sour banana sherbet. I saw a meme the other day, and I think it was Ryan Ramsey texted me, and it's people where weed is legal, and it's got one like angry face going, "Is this purple GI hydroelectric sour diesel?" And then the other guy in like the crying face, "No, this is Ford Focus Purple Kush AK-47." And then underneath there's like, it's people where weed is illegal, and it's the blonde, libertarian dude face, and he's going, "So what kind of weed is this?" And then there's another face going, "Weed." Yeah, like weed. All right. Well, this is White Widow, locally sourced outdoor.
Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
Thank you, Jim. Jim's on it today with the music. All right, so we have, without further ado, we don't have any like super critical, urgent headlines today. We did get to skim the news. We are going to get to some international politics. We are going to, or international bullshit, governments, fighting each other, that kind of thing. And we do have the police state stories and updates, and then two little vaccine stories that we couldn't wait until we said we're not going to do COVID Monday, Wednesday this week. This week it'll be Tuesday, Thursday. So tomorrow, don't worry, you'll get a big block of COVID. But for now, if Ant is ready to kick off our police state update block, is our caller ready? Awesome, ladies and gentlemen. Ant, I don't know how much you want to identify yourself. We didn't think this out too much in advance, but thank you, first of all, for joining the Adam vs. the Man Patreon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being active in the Producers Club. It's awesome to see that conversation growing. As I keep up with that, I see all the messages eventually in the Producers Club. It was really cool to see you there. And apparently you have a personal story motivation. So, I mean, I will identify yourself. No, we don't play papers, please, Ant. No, I know I could say it's short for something, but hey, man, however you want to identify yourself publicly, whatever you want people to know, stage is yours.
Yeah, just Ant, short for Anthony. I go by Ant by my friends. I figure we're friends. I'm Ant to you, right? So just another libertarian living in Texas, and whenever Stephen got arrested, for words, basically, it reminded me a few years ago when I actually was arrested for something that was said on Facebook. So normal people say something that Facebook doesn't like, and they go to Facebook jail. So, not me. So I'm taking my little brother home from a date with his little girlfriend. I had a little teenage brother, and of course I had the hot rod, the fancy car. So he's like, "Hey brother, can you take me and my girlfriend on my date and then come pick us up later because you have the fancy car?" All right. So I passed by this police officer on the way home. I'm doing 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, but I'm in a bright red sports car. Cherries and berries come on. I get pulled over. I don't think nothing of it. I don't have any warrants. I pay all my tickets I've ever had, and I'm just like, okay, well, maybe I have a taillight out. So he comes over to me and like, "What's the problem, officer?" He's like, "Oh, well, you were speeding." I was like, "I don't think I was." Like, "Oh, yeah. You're doing, 70, but the speed limit's not 70 until right here. And 100 feet from where he tagged me, the speed limit was 70. It was 65 where I was at." I'm like, all right. So anyway, so I'm going to run your information, and I'll come back, and I'll just give you a warning. I'll let you go. I was like, all right. So about 5 minutes comes by, and he comes back over to my car, and he's like, "Can I get you step out of the car?" I'm like, my little brother and his girlfriend are looking at me like, what the hell's going on? Like, I'm like, "Is there a problem?" He's like, "Could I just get you step out of the car?" Normally, I would have conscientiously objected, but I have 2 teenage children in my car, and I'm trying not to get tased or anything traumatic in front of them. So I'm like,
Right.
And then the cops being polite. So I'm like, okay. So
Well, I would just
out.
point out for someone even in that situation, and I don't want to pretend that I'm always perfectly cool under pressure and think of the best option every time, but I think you might the the reasonable defense you would take in that is to say, can you tell me the reason for asking me to step out of the car? Because if it's
Right.
not an emergency, and even with the security, that would have been an opportunity possibly to de-escalate, right? Where if you say,
Sure.
what if he's doing it for bullshit? Well, because bullshit harassment, and I just want to poke around, and you say, excuse me, sir, before I step out, you stay calm and you keep your hands where they can see them and all that.
Yeah,
Excuse me, sir.
definitely.
Yeah, excuse me, sir, before I step out of the vehicle, and that in and of itself is a disarming phrase, because it's like, I intend to do this. Let's do this. Officer, before I step out of the vehicle, can you please tell me what's the reason for asking me to step out of the vehicle right now? And if in his head he's going, you know what, you have a right. I didn't really want to do this anyway, or I was just fucking with you. If you're going to be a pain in the ass, you can say, well, sir, you have a right to refuse. Or here's the other thing: is being empathetic to cops, just to put yourself in their shoes for a second. What if he's has just the slightest suspicion you're intoxicated, and actually engaging in a conversation for a few sentences with clearly articulated concepts that you're communicating to him is enough to reassure that you're safe to drive, and that might be it, and we live in a world where how do we ensure road safety? Well, we have cops going, are you okay to drive? Are you okay? And all right, yes, sir. Whatever you got to do to Jedi mind trick them.
And I absolutely agree with all of that. And normally that would be kind of my line of defense. I was just kind of taken off guard by it because he told me he was going to let me go with a warning, and then can I step out of the car? So I step out of the car.
Disengage, right? Like you can't. We live in a police state. Anytime you're outside your house, the ground is lava. You have to be paying attention, right? But no, it's especially and cops will trick you. So you think he had that effect of disarming you, so that when he came back and said, "Can you step out?" you weren't even thinking that this is oppositional. You're thinking, all right, we're working together. We're getting this resolved. But so you step out.
So when I step out of the car and I go to the back, and my first instinct is I must have lost a tail light. So I walk back and I look and I'm like, it's like, oh, my light, I got lights. Says, what's going on? He's like, sir, you have a warrant for your arrest. Pardon me? It's like, yeah. It's like, come back here to my car with me and sit in my car. He's like, get in the front seat. I'm going to show you my computer, which normally doesn't happen. They don't usually sit you in the front seat. He's like, I just want you to verify that this is you. And it says, so he turns his computer to me and he looks and he's like, is this you? And it has my information on there. It's like, that's my information for sure. I was like, what is this? And he turns the computer back. It's like, it says you have a warrant for your arrest for harassment. It's like, harassment? Who am I harassing? I was like, I don't even know what this is about. And he goes, well, he says, I don't really have any choice. I gotta take you to jail. It's like, officer, I have 2 children in my car. I was like, I can't just abandon them on the side of the road while you take me to jail. And it's like, can I make a phone call right now to have somebody come get them, get my car, and move it off the highway, and and get them home? So the officer, it was the sheriff's department, very polite guy. He let me make a phone call. We waited for 45 minutes before I had family members come and get my car and take the car home, and then I went to jail. Well, so I'm in jail.
So the story of the arrest is actually not the story here. I mean, it's an important part.
It took me by surprise.
But this is the link for you between, you said something on Facebook, you end up not free to go because of a traffic sign. And one other bullshit thing, I understand, so as far as you're concerned, the cop was as cool as he could be throughout this interaction, right? And what would have been cooler is if he said, I'll let you drive them home.
Yeah.
So we have they should, and if this was a private security or community-based or even locally accountable police officer, he would have given you the same courtesy he would have given to a city council member in that circumstance, and say.
And I actually did ask him that.
The computer would tell him, hey, not a flight risk, not a violent threat, said some stuff on the internet, has to get arrested and processed, but not a problem. He could have escorted you home. You know, how far away do you live from here, sir? You know, let's not make extra work for everybody. But
Right.
they're kind of not allowed to do that, right? Like, but he
Right.
lets you make a phone call and hand off the keys in the vehicle and the youngins.
Right.
That's what you say in
And
Texas, right there, youngins.
Millions.
Youngins.
youngins, yeah.
Because you can't
So-
call they're teenagers. You don't want to demean them and call them kids, right?
Right. Well, the officer didn't actually know what the charges were about. All he had was harassment. So I end up in court, or not in court. I end up in jail, and they get processed. And I have another family member that's going to come try to bail me out, and they won't post my bond. There's no bond posted, so I have to wait for a judge. It's the damn weekend. I'm like, why is there not a bond on this? I still don't know why I'm in jail for. I just know it's for harassment. I'm like, I still don't know who I'm harassed. I finally get my bond hearing with the judge.
And legitimately, if that's all the cop sees, yeah, we need to secure you before you do anything else, because that's a crime with the victim.
Right. And so I go see the judge, and so the judge goes, well, how do you want to plea on this now, or do you want to, what do you want to do? Because and he's like, well, I'm obviously not guilty. I don't even know what it's for. And I asked the judge, like, hey, this is a harassment. There's a victim. He's like, does it name the victim? And he goes, I don't have that information. So you're the judge. What do you mean you don't? So I'm being accused. I don't even know who my accuser is. I'm sitting in jail. I don't know who my accuser is. And he's like, well, you just have to take it up with the county attorney or whatever. And so I was like, all right. So I get my bond, $1,000 bail, so $100 to get out or something. And I get out of jail. I'm in jail for almost 2 days before I get out. So, anyways, the next day I go over to district attorney, and I go in there and I'm like, hey, I just got arrested. I need to know what in the hell's going on. It's like, I've done a little bit of research. Actually, you were the reason that I even started this whole researching, not getting my ass in trouble with the law, watching you get arrested for dancing at Jefferson Memorial and everything else. So I was like, so I had this Adam Kokesh brain. I was like, all right, I got to make sure I don't say the wrong thing. I got to make sure I'm only saying the right things. And so I go and I request discovery. I'm like, sir, you're not an attorney. So I had already pulled up the things like, I don't have to be an attorney because I'm legally, allowed to do this. I want discovery. I'm currently representing myself. And so it's like, well, because you're not an attorney, I can't give it to you, but I can show it to you. I'm like, well, at least show me what's going on.
Okay, so when exactly was this? What year?
This was 2018. 2017, 2018.
It's funny 'cause it was January 18. I was arrested in Wise County, Texas.
Right, and this was a few months after you were arrested.
Okay, it's funny because I went pro se the entire time, and I gotta say I'm very proud of how I handled that case, because defended myself and beat 4 felonies and a misdemeanor down to basically a $400 fine, and it's they haven't gotten back to me. It's such a weird. Texas is, legal system is
something different for sure.
Yeah, and I got approved. I mean, I had to get and this is sort of reasonable. I had to get approved by the judge in the misdemeanor court and the felony court separately to defend myself. And the judge says, are you familiar? And like the judge in the felony court actually tried to get me to admit that I wasn't capable of defending myself. He was like, well, are you familiar with jury trial processes in the state of Texas? I was like, no, but I can read English and know how to use the internet. I think I choose to handle but I ended up using the religious offense in that case. So even the bond thing was weird, where it's like a magistrate in the jail. After I had been there, we were like processing all these inmates out, and I just went and said, no, this is bullshit, because I was able to sit in jail. For me at the time, I was like, yeah, I'll sit in jail to beat this thing, and I'm glad that I did. But the other thing is with the documents for the full discovery, and I think they were deliberately keeping me from getting them from being able to release them. But
yeah,
they told me They told me the same thing. Well, you can come on a Friday afternoon between 2:15 and 1:45 in our back room with no lights, and you can look at the stuff.
That's kind of like the way it was for me at the downtown courthouse. You know, off in this other room by myself with the armed guard outside the gate or outside the door, because if I took any of that, my own discovery, my own evidence against me with me, that was another charge. I was going to go back to jail. So when I got the discovery, I looked at it and they had screenshots from Facebook. And I don't know the guy in person who had reported me, but he at the time was talking to my ex-wife. And I'd said something that basically I was an asshole to him because I just warned him about my kids and whatnot. I was an asshole, you know. And so I won't get into all the details of what I said. Well, there was also another set of screenshots from another account, and it didn't have my name on the account, and I won't tell you if it was actually my account or not. You know, but there was two sets of screenshots from basically me being an asshole. And so this is what I was arrested for. I was like, this is what I was arrested for? I was like,
did you actually cross the line of making threats?
Well, that's the thing. So the charge was harassment. Theoretically, some of my threats could have been taken as a terroristic threat, but that's not the charge that I got.
Okay,
I got
so
harassment.
it was the repetitive nature.
Well, no, twice. I only did it twice. And I was arrested for this. I was like, so anyways, I go to my first my pretrial or whatever, and they have 5 plea bargains for me. All of them involve me going to jail. And so I was like, no, I don't like any of these deals. It's like, well, sir, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm not going to take any of these deals. We'll go to trial. And they're like, they were flabbergasted. Like, you want to go to trial? It's like, you know, if you go to trial, it's like, yeah, it's 5 years if I'm found guilty. I was like, or you could escalate it to stalking or terroristic threats. Either which way, it's a mandatory minimum 10-year sentence. It's like, I understand this, but you have a couple screenshots, and that's all you have. I was like, what other evidence do you have? Do you have IP addresses? Do you have like what? I want to know what other evidence. We don't have any of that. We just have the screenshots. I'm like, we're going to trial. And so they were like, okay, well, I had another pre-trial. For some reason, they had me have 2 pre-trials.
Well, hold on, Ann. I really want to underscore this point because this is the hard one for a lot of people. You have had your creativity and your autonomy and sense of sovereignty beaten out of you by the powers that be your entire life, so that when that critical moment comes, you will blink. You will blink out of fear. When they throw those big numbers at you, 10 years, 20 years, mandatory minimum, and even if they don't have a case against you, they know that they can fuck you. They can fuck up your life. They go into trial. It can be a sentence in and of itself. If you're not in a position to really enjoy it, you know, it sucks going to court day after day if that's what you got to do, worrying about this. It fills up your brain space. It is poison. And if you can look them in the eye when the time comes and say, take your plea deal offer and fucking shove it because you don't have a case against me. If you want anything from me, we're going to trial. That is, if everybody who could say that would be in a position to say that, at very least, all the plea deals suddenly get way better. And they go, oh, absolutely. Shit, how much of a trial do we have? And then it becomes simply, instead of them leveraging your fear against you, it's just a matter of, well, how much power do we actually have to harass him, and how much can we get him to accept to make this go away? And I'm not saying never take a plea, but pretty much almost never take the first round. That's for sure. And if they don't have a case, be able to have that confidence to tell them to go pound sand.
Yeah, absolutely. So my second pretrial, they offered me much better pleas because they were trying hard to get me to agree that I was guilty.
In jail, or
like, well, what if we?
Sorry, Ann, did you get bonded out in between?
I was. No, I was out of jail. I got bonded out the first time, and they didn't consider me a flight risk, so I was allowed to be on my own recognizance afterwards, and have to show up
That
to all these
makes
court
sense.
dates. But
It's a lot easier to negotiate from outside the cell. I mean, in that moment of not blinking,
absolutely,
it helps to be well rested and have a stomach full of good
yeah,
food and not be holding in a turd, not be worried about your going back to see your cellmate or anything like that. It's really nice to
exactly.
better position to negotiate from. But I'll point out one other thing. When I was in Texas, I did stay in for 10 days to negotiate. But I opted out of getting the tuberculosis shot. They give you a TB test.
Yeah,
They go prick under the skin on the arm, and they come back in like a day and a half or whatever, and see if you've got a raised welt, and if not, you're cleared from TB, which hasn't been a thing for a long time. And somebody's making bank off of requiring that every jail use their test, right, for every single inmate. But if you refuse the test, you say, on religious grounds, I object to letting government agents put needles in my body or whatever it is. I do not want you to put this in my body now. And you yell and scream if you have to. But if they don't do that, they have to put you in solitary. And it's not a punitive solitary, but at least it's a lower stress environment than general population, possible cellmate, all of that. So
right.
I've used that tactic a couple of times. Actually, I genuinely don't like government putting needles in my body. Crazy, right?
I genuinely don't like solitary.
Absolutely.
All right. So
My second pretrial,
yes.
they asked me if I wanted if I had a lawyer. I was still representing myself. This is 6 months down the road. I'm still representing myself, and I was like, no, I don't have an attorney. I'm representing myself. It's like, well, do you want to apply for a court appointed attorney? And I was like, well, here's the thing. I was like, I was thinking, it's like, well, if it isn't going to cost me any money, like at least I have somebody I can talk to and still kind of try to represent myself. If they're gonna, it's like, I think I make too much money. They're like, well, you could try. So I was like, oh, all right. So I put the paperwork in. They came back about 10 minutes later. Oh, you were approved for an attorney. I'm like, oh, well, they gave me my attorney's information and whatnot. And I called them up when I left the courthouse, and I was like, hey, they gave me you for this deal or whatever. And he's like, yeah, why don't you come by my office in the morning and we'll talk about it. So I show up at his office in the morning, and he goes through my discovery that he got, and he got the exact same discovery that I got. And he tells me, so you haven't told him anything. It's like, as a matter of fact, the county attorney or district attorney, whatever, has told me that you refuse to talk to them. You haven't said anything to them. You just made my job easy. Is like, and I'm going to tell you, it's like these text messages or whatever is just, it's not harassment. You're a fucking asshole. It's like, but I'm an asshole. He said, you know what? Don't worry about this. I'll make this go away.
And you have a right to be an asshole.
Absolutely. He's like, I just want to make it clear that you are an asshole, he tells me. I'm like, all right. So anyways, from the time I was arrested.
I got to ask then, do you think the prosecuting attorneys were just trying, they're stringing you along for months with this bullshit because they were trying to get you to slip? Were they probing, getting you on record, or trying to get you to say something about the victim?
And every single plea bargain involved me paying a monetary sum to the county.
Of course.
So it was, to me, it was about money. And then when I refused, so I didn't know the day of the trial comes, and because it's going all the way to trial at this point, the day of the trial comes, and I'm in town, and my attorney said, just stand by and I'll let you know. And I was like, do I need to show up to the court? It's like, no, just stand by and I'll let you know something. So I'm supposed to be in court at like 3:00. And it's like 2:30, and I'm like stressing. I'm like, crap, am I gonna, I'm supposed to be there at 3:00. He hasn't called me. What do I do? So I call him, and it's like 2:45, and I'm down the street from the courthouse getting ready to run if I have to make sure I can make it. So his secretary picks up the phone, and she's like, oh, yeah, 20 minutes ago, they dropped the case. You're good to go.
Yeah.
So,
no, hey, I will say that is a great combination that you employed there of defending yourself and leaning on a public defender for the procedural part, because whatever he did to work himself in, probably a pretrial motion to dismiss, or got it before the judge, just like, hey, before we initiate this trial, judge, review the evidence. 6 months, no other evidence, please dismiss. My client's ready to let this, to walk away from this. And they were able to do that in a way that you defend yourself, sadly, the way that it's engineered in the system even if you had done it with paperwork and filed motions in advance, would have taken you, maybe 5 to 10 hours minimum, and might have taken longer to work, or not as been as decisive.
Absolutely.
So yeah, good job.
So that story of mine reminded me of kind of where Steven's at right now for something that he said he's in jail for, and I hope his outcome is as effective and clean as mine was. And I mean, it's just one of those things that the police state's gotten so bad that even things that we say on Facebook can send you to actual jail, not just Facebook jail. So the censorship is real right now.
I was just thinking about that. I mean, if Facebook gets any bigger, they're going to be buying facilities. Maybe they'll have their own actual Facebook jail and Facebook police. And like say something on Facebook, and, hey man, hey, you're a libertarian. You can't argue with that because that's private security.
Exactly.
All right, well, hey, Ann, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I hope this is a good. It's a good teachable moment for all the youngins there. Anybody else though dealing with cops, dealing with knowing your rights? The Ant's story is a great example of a number of legal strategies well employed.
I owe it all to you, Adam. I mean, like I said, from watching you through all these years, I mean, I remember when I first stumbled upon you dancing at Jefferson Memorial. I was like, who is this guy? It's like this, like I need to follow this guy. And then you got arrested for the shotgun picture deal, and I was following your story on that. And then you got arrested in Texas. I was following you then, and so, I mean, if it wasn't for somebody like you, or you in particular, really, then I don't think that I would have been in a position to argue my case. But you have made me more conscientious of what I say to police officers, and to realize that they don't work for me. They work for the state.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I would tell everybody, just a little critical examination of why they're doing what they're doing, and why we suggest generally interacting with cops the way we do. It just takes the guesswork and the uncertainty out of it. And I don't, I understand if you're not up on this, then there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of uncertainty. You go to jail, and the way out is to do what you're told. And when you recognize that the state, however they are dressed up in black robes or silk suits, or meeting in fancy buildings with wood paneling and marble countertops and security checkpoints, they're just a fancy criminal organization. And while they might do some things that are in the legitimate public interest, it's their excuse to do things that are not. And that's their racket. That's their crime. And don't be a victim. It's just, hey, how to not be a victim of the state, or at least minimize your victimization by the state. And doing a podcast like this is not a good way, but we can help share stories and show other people a good way to minimize their victimization. And who knows how much money we stop them from ripping off from you or using you as an excuse for. And so thank you for being a great example of that and sharing your story today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So we went a little long. Don't worry, we'll get to our headlines. But we have a guest today. And so now Alex Michalowski, I hope I'm saying that all right, joins us. He is the founder of organicgrit.com. And just to go to their about page to introduce him here, Alex, our founder, took the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek to heart while we've been serving overseas in Afghanistan in 2019 in support of OFS. Through this, he developed the 3-pillar system that Organic Grit follows. So can we get him up on screen? Is Alex there?
How you doing, Adam?
Hey, welcome to the show, Alex. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. How you been?
Excellent, excellent. So, this was something I found out about your business. I think I was just trolling Twitter for buying CBD online. Yeah. And I want to give you the chance to introduce your business, introduce yourself, tell us about the why. Maybe I guess I would suggest you start with why.
All right, Adam, and it's good to see you, man. I remember back in the day, my brother, I have a twin brother, you know this, Victor. You were doing demonstrations and everything like that in DC and everything like that, and it was really good to see that. And at the time, I wasn't serving in the military, but seeing all that, it pushed the mission forward for me to join up back in the day. What was it, 2013 when I joined? Still in now. So the why, I guess, the why for us is the fact that anxiety and depression exists in the veteran community, and it's something that it's
He disconnected. I don't know what happened. His phone, maybe something. He's reconnecting right now.
Okay.
on. You got me now?
Yeah. Lima
There
Charlie.
we, yeah. Apologize about that. So the why is, again, the anxiety and depression that exists in our community is extensive, and it's pretty sad. But and if you look at the statistics, it's still probably 22 or 23 average veterans kill themselves every day from anxiety. And from depression, it's the suicide that gets them, right? And it's that one moment that gets them. It's their thoughts going left and right. Um, it was something that personally hit me when I came back from Afghanistan in 2019. And, I dealt with a lot of it and reacclimating to, society and the civilian life, right? And then COVID hit too. But that was kind of a benefit because then I was around my family because they started working from home. It was like the lobsters, you know what I mean? Like the lobsters on the Titanic, you know what I mean? Like when it went down, it was a miracle for them, but not a miracle for everyone else. So,
Oh man.
you know what I mean? So it was good stuff right there. But besides that, I mean, I was dealing with it, and then I noticed some of my guys on the team were dealing with it, and then I'm like, okay, I started researching, typing anxiety, diagnosing myself with a lot of things, self-diagnosing, and then I was like, all right, this ain't working. And then I started finding out something about CBD. And then I ordered a lot of things online. I ordered multiple farmers, multiple things across the country, getting shipped to my house and my residence, my family's residence. And, my family's looking at me like I'm a crazy guy. But I'm like, look, something's going to, but something's got to work here. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to be taking any prescribed medication out of a medical facility. I'm opposed to that. Even though there is good research done, but at the end of the day, it's just made in a lab. So then we found some guys in not Colorado, in Wisconsin, that grow some really good strain of hemp, Hawaiian haze hemp. This is not patent or anything like that. Anybody can grow it. It's weed, not hemp. Hemp is able to be grown anywhere, really. So they do that, and I started using, their extracted product, and it felt great. And I've been using it for months. And then I was like, all right, so if I can use it and it's feeling good for me, other guys can use it, and it lowers your blood pressure. It lowers the blood pressure, and then it benefits anxiety to be diminished, and then the symptoms of depression as well, and allows you to focus and mellows you out. But then from there, you decide what you want to do, and that's our why as well. You're mellowed out, you're straightforward, so now what you want to do, you want to progress, you want to excel. So that's why we partnered with Veterans Adventure Group and 22 into Valhalla and Patrol Base Abate. All three of them are registered 501c nonprofit organizations that combat anxiety and symptoms of depression through outdoor activities like skydiving, scuba diving, hiking, mountaineering. We're going to climb Mount Rainier in June, and all of this is free. So if you're a veteran and you're listening to this, and Adam, you're a veteran too, reach out and go out there, and we can go climb Mount Rainier, and it's all free. And we donated over $1,000 to these guys a month ago, and we're going to continue. 20% of everything we sell will forever be donated to nonprofit organizations like those three. Every 20%, every time, forever. And it's actionable items, like courses of action, like Major Schumann, the founder of Patrol Base Abate. He's a Marine officer. You might know who he is on Instagram, Killzone. We sat down to dinner one time next to Indianapolis, and he was he's an
I
instructor
probably
there.
know a lot of dudes who go by Killzone on the internet or wish they went by Killzone on the internet.
So
Just
his is Kill, like KILLZ0ME. And you would love his talks, Adam. You would love his talks, and really clever individual, just like yourself, and like able to like build off a conversation, and he really listens. And one thing I was telling him about some aspirations of mine, I'm like, oh, I'm hopeful, God willing, I'm gonna do this. He said, stop. All right, you said this shit like multiple times. There is only courses of action, so you will do that or you will not. If anything else, you're gonna be directing yourself to failure. There's an option there to give up. And then so those are the guys that we work with, like leaders like that. And it's great stuff. And we're moving along. We're doing well. Soon we're going to be doing apparel. People thought we'd do apparel because of the videos we post and the photos we put up on our Instagram account on Organic Grit, and we are not. But now since the community decided that we have to, we're gonna make some shirts and a hoodie and a hat. You know what I mean? Like that's how it happens.
Every brand you gotta have it's you can't have a brand without merch.
Yeah,
Not
so
in the age
this
of
is-
the internet. Not when you gotta snap your fingers to make all that happen, right?
This is from Gorilla Group, another like veteran organized apparel brand. But, like, there's so many, you know this. There's so many good people on the internet. There's so many good vibes there. There's some haters, but I mean, if you have haters, that means you're doing something right. And hating is free too. So like, you can hate for free from the parking lot and just like talk your shit. But you know what I mean? You know this, Adam. You know they can talk their shit from the parking lot. But it's cool. I mean, and and my brother, like Victor tells me, he's like, don't focus on that. Don't do much linking and stuff like that. And I try not to. And it's good not to do that, because we have a lot of aspirations. Like, we're going to be doing research in Harvard next month, or close to it. The researcher there, she's still settling in for anxiety and symptoms of depression. And then we go to the National Institutes of Health in Maryland. And then over there, we're gonna combine the research and then go to Congress. But we're not gonna do crazy shit like Adam does. We're gonna try to be cordial. Like, hey, we're here to talk. We're here to talk, and we're gonna get stuff and legislation passed to allow veterans to take this stuff. And I was reading a document the other day that they don't really outright ban it, but they're saying be cautious, because some companies, not ours, do not lab test their stuff. So then you can actually have a higher amount of THC in it, which is anything higher than 0.3% is considered a marijuana,
Right.
which
No,
is then
and
considered.
for a lot of veterans, and I want to point this out from my own experience with CBD and extract versus whole flower.
Mhm.
There are a lot of strains, and that actually would increase my anxiety if I were sensitive to the racing effect. You know, I smoke sativas because I enjoy the engagement, the heady high, and being sort of energized by it, as opposed to the indica couch lock effect. But even that, I get like a mind. I have to stop smoking cannabis, like full flower or full THC, before bedtime, and be, you know, if anything, you know, that's cannabis at all, CBD only, you know, a few hours before going to sleep, where I'm going to have that racing effect. So it is unfortunate still at this point in the transition out of the drug war that we're just starting to get sort of reliable products, right? That you don't have to guess what's in it when you're really dealing with a sensitive mental health situation. You need to know exactly what you're getting, and it needs to be consistent. And for a lot of people, if you get a CBD product, if you're sensitive to the THC, if it has a little bit more, that'll fuck you up. And I think that's what you're referring to, right, Alex?
Absolutely, and that's why after the hemp is grown and extracted in Wisconsin, we transport it over to Colorado. And then again, that's an extra cost that we take, but it's fine, because it's at the end of the day, if we grow like this, it'll be fine. And they tested at Botanicar, and Botanicar is a CGMP. It's a fancy word to say that they know what they're doing. It's facility, an ISO certified facility, where they take the batch that we created and test it, and then they give us the report, and then we place a QR code on every bottle that someone, when they purchase, they can look at it and scan it with their phone and see exactly how much CBD, how much CBG, how much CBE, but mainly CBD, and how much THC is in there in a readable, easy to understand format. And then you're confident. You're like, okay, there is not 20% THC, and I'm not going to get high off this, and this is actually going to.
So that's what you just said is really cool. Hold on, I want to point this out. Like the idea of you know, product labeling, where there's like an FDA approved, you know, like on a bottle of water. Does this have it? Yeah, no.
Those would do. The interesting thing about that, Adam, the supplement industry, they're not regulated by the FDA, but I believe this is because there will be so much. The FDA will be so overwhelmed that they're like, okay, we're not going to regulate this. So now, hold
on, I want to say what you have created there, and I don't think you deserve credit for inventing this, but this particular implementation and pushing the use of QR codes on products as a way of explaining what's in them precisely, how it was determined, how they were made, to say, I'm not going to be limited by the data printed on the bottle. I'm not going to make you type in a website. QR codes have, I think, sort of, I don't want to say struggled because they're an inanimate object, right? But they've sort of struggled to find a useful niche. You know,
Yeah.
politicians put them on campaign buses, and kids don't go scan politicians' campaign buses. So, but if it's on a product, whether it's food or drugs, but I think cannabis is the cutting edge for this, where there's the demand. So I'm glad that you're using this, that you're pushing it, you're talking about it. But this is going to create an expectation for all
Exactly.
consumer products
Exactly.
across the board.
Exactly.
But especially with cannabis, and I'm thinking eventually with psilocybin. I mean, right now you buy a baggie of mushrooms or weed on the street, and it's like, whatever the fuck is in here is whatever the fuck you're getting. Good luck. And if it's cocaine, it might be 20% cocaine and 80% baby powder, right? Who knows what
Did
you're
you cut
getting?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Um,
good stuff. I mean, it makes sense, and it's not a requirement right now, but eventually it will be. 2018, the Farm Bill came out, and it said, okay, the hemp and CBD industry is getting little more attention, so we need to start regulating it. Eventually,
right.
even I heard Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are proponents of CBD and hemp for the military, and that's a great thing. And one day, hopefully, not hopefully, okay, we're not going to say that. Like one day, we will talk to them in person and say, this is what we have done, and this is what the standard should be, because it's dangerous. Like someone could literally go and create extract CBD and start placing stuff in it, and then want to be a joker and put some extra stuff in it, and that's not safe. You know what I mean? And the QR code mentioned, yeah, we that was the QR code has been there for a while. We just used it in a way that's more, it doesn't go to the website. It goes to a PDF document that's now on your phone, and then you can look at it, show it to your friends, explain to them, and say, oh look, it's a certified lab report from Colorado saying this is what's in it, and this is signed by two doctors, two laboratory technicians, and backed by a serious company. So I'm like, good. I mean, that's a good standard, and we're gonna
Well, yeah,
maintain that.
I got to say, as a libertarian, it should never be mandated or by regulation, but by consumer choice. And right now,
And
as
they
a
will
consumer,
decide.
you can vote with your dollar, and you can support a company like Organic Grit that's taking this leap. But Alex, I mean, I'm going to sidebar quickly for a second. I would want to see this on everything, and food. I think food products, to be able to scan a food product and not see a PDF, but to go say, like, this is the chicken that your nuggets were made from. You're gonna have a lot of
That's a
vegetarians
good,
a lot
yeah.
that way. But even just knowing, what if you're buying some food product that's certified organic, why go with
Yeah.
the company that just says trust us versus the one that says, oh, let's show you how this is made?
Good point. No, absolutely. That's actually a pretty good idea. I mean, like, they could be like, they want to talk all this cage free and animals. No, okay. If you scan this QR code, let's see what's really about. It's very simple. Scan it. Let's see if the document's actually there, or the supporting
Yeah.
like analysis is there. That's actually pretty good, and that would be dope. Actually, pretty much. You can go, you'll be at Whole Foods, and you'll be like, you know what? Let me see, and scan it. You're like, okay, because there's only so
Yeah.
much you can put on a
Yeah.
bottle or a box. You can't. I'm not going to put a whole report on the box. I can say no THC. I can say 0.3%, and if I mislabel it and say it is and it's not, we can get in trouble. But even that, it's like some people rather see
It's too late. It's too late. You're gonna be like the pharmaceutical companies, like what was Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and all
Oh my
the
God.
Moderna assholes who asked for,
I'm
even
good
with
off that. I'm
qualified
never getting a
immunity
vaccine.
government protection, they've paid what, billions of dollars in settlements over the years after they destroy people's health.
And Adam, speaking about Pfizer and pharmaceutical companies, the one issue, and this is from me talking to you, like right here, right now, and then what I will continue doing throughout the year and years on for a little bit, is to completely and to always be open about who I am, how I look, and all this stuff, because big pharma will not like individuals like me or you talking about this stuff, because their industry is so saturated with like money and connections and all this. Come across hemp that's $57. You can literally $57. You can grow it, extract it, transport it, test it and in scales of economy, of course, and then sell it for a little bit more to make profit so you don't drown, and then donate some 20% of it to veterans actually doing stuff in the community. They're gonna
Yeah,
flip this shit because they're gonna realize like, wow, medication, we can't overcharge it anymore to insurance companies, and wow, like we can't, they're gonna hate it.
I think it's worth pointing out that even if Big Pharma and Philip Morris completely dominated the cannabis industry top to bottom, their industries overall would shrink by
Oh, big time.
90% because they wouldn't be
Absolutely.
prescribing treatments because now that they have to offer cures, right? And
Oh,
everything
exactly.
right now
Cures. They don't want that.
it's
It's not their money. Yeah.
right. And it's sometimes it seems right now like it's like cannabis and everything around it is a saturated market with a lot of competition.
So
But
one,
anything you can do to move product, if you can start a business, and even if you're moving, $500 worth of shit a month because you got a website and you're making a little side hustle. And I know you guys are at the next level from this, but you're still a relatively small player in the bigger game here,
very small.
right? Do it because you sell $500 a month of cannabis products. That might be $5,000 that stays out of Big Pharma's pockets, and that's huge. So,
And we get it. You know?
Alex, if you could briefly touch on that for your company, where you're at, and how you see yourself relative to the competition in the bigger cannabis everything market, please.
Absolutely, Adam. And so one quick thing, I will say at the beginning of all this and what you mentioned, there's competition, there's saturation in many industries. In the car industry, you got Tesla going into like a big dominated Ford industry. You got me coming into an industry where you have CBDMD, and honestly, if you're an honest company like us and like myself, you have to give respect where it's due. CBDMD is an outstanding company. Actually does QR codes. Started doing this shit back in the day. Very, very solid. They're in the UFC and they help people. But there's some in my own industry that will mudsling and throw people down and just to throw them down. And that's not the case. If there's 100 people in the industry, what is the difference between 100 and 101? There is none. The only difference, the major one difference, is service. So if you actually care about people, you're genuine, you're on the phone, you actually go put in the work, you donate your money, you donate your time, of all things, people will recognize and it will resonate with them. And they're like, wow, there are people. It's cool to be kind. You can do this, and there is no need to mudsling, and there's no need to cut one another down. And where we're at right now, we're still entering the market. We're going to be going again, doing the research on the side with Harvard, and we're going to be doing the research and work with the National Institutes of Health, the NIH. And then the overall goal this year or towards the beginning of next year is to go to Congress and let them see who we are and what we've done for our community. Because like it's in your ideology and how you always talked all your life, that it's up to the community to decide what you're doing. Like, it's not always up to the government to step in and fix things. The community is very able and willing to do things. So we're going to step up and do the stuff that they should have done a long time ago and provide an alternative, natural solution, an option for citizens and veterans to go about to combat anxiety and symptoms of depression. So
yeah, well, and I think the one thing I want to point out in there are a lot of different people selling different kinds of CBD, different extract, this, pills, that, whatever it is. But there seems to be, for the time being, an almost insatiable demand for individual medical cannabis consulting, like a pharmacist used to be or should be, and still is in limited cases, where they actually help you dial in dosage and how to ingest and use, all the different things. Just being there to answer those questions for a lot of people. Hey, did you know that it's not just weed? It's not just sativa indica. Within that, there's dozens of different terpenes that contribute to how all of those organic compounds interact with your body. Try this strength, try this. Well, how long do I try it for? No, okay, smoke it every morning for a week. see how it goes. Try this strain every morning for a week and contrast. And being able to customize that kind of consultation for individuals, and just encourage them, like even with CBD. And I want to ask, first of all, or at least, one last question related to your business specifically. CBD dropper form. What's your preferred method of ingestion, and why is that, at least for the time being, the ideal method? And how would you like to see that develop? Because there's so many options out there. But dropper, you get a dropper liquid, you control it, you can put it right in your mouth and just swallow it. Is that it for you?
Understood. So the thing is with CBD, the best way to administer CBD and to reap the benefits of it as like its 100% potency and not like lose it is underneath your tongue. Because underneath your tongue is where like it absorbs a lot of like anything really. If you've done any other type of drug, it's pretty beneficial over there around the mouth, and then it's going to go into your system and start doing its job. There's gummies involved too, but we're not involved in gummies, not as of yet, because it requires a lot more CBD because the enzymes and the digestive system throws everything out. Then you
Okay,
have,
so specifically, if you can absorb through the skin in the mouth the CBD, you have less of a loss than if you eat it, and you have some loss to your digestive system before it hits the bloodstream, right? Okay.
exactly. And then if you have solves, which we don't have yet as well, but one thing I always like harp on to the team is that we don't want to just get involved in things just to get involved in it and make it seem like we're the jack of all trades. If there's something that we don't know what we're doing, it's okay to say you don't know what you're doing, and we'll get to it. If not, never. It's fine. Solves is something we want to get into too. It's for like you place it on your tissues, your muscle tissues previous to working out or after to calm down the inflammation. Again, lowers blood pressure. You put it on there and it will slow it down. CBDMD has a great product there as well. And that's not for anxiety. It's for athletes, you know what I mean, or people who are maybe suffer from muscle like inflammation and pain. Maybe arthritis, it can help out. I don't know, but I mean, we don't really enter that field as of yet. But the main products we have is just the dropper, and you put it underneath your tongue, wait 30 seconds, and it tastes pretty good. You got hemp flavored and blue raspberry, and that's it. It's very simple, and it's straight up broad spectrum, no THC, full spectrum THC. And that's it. Nothing nothing complicated, and it depends on your age too. But we distribute a card that just recommend the dosage requirements. But you will see, for me, because I'm only like 155 pounds and I'm 27, 26, so I only really take 60 to 70 milligrams a day. Anything more gets me my mouth and too mellow, so I don't take it. And honestly,
Yeah, that's the thing, is just not having a guide. So many people have had dumb experiences with just a little.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much pot to smoke. I thought I was supposed to smoke 2 joints in the morning and 2 joints in the afternoon and 2 joints at night, and made me a fucking zombie. That's not how you're supposed to. No, you can sip it. You can take 2 hits once an hour and moderate. And it's like, oh, no shit. Yeah, CBD. Why take a full dropper? Well, you get cotton mouth. Okay, we'll back it off. How much? I don't know. But if you have guides who are experienced, and a lot of these companies like Organic Grit are building that function in, and that's where the real value is, right? It's not that they're just putting product on the internet and selling it and moving it. It's the verification, it's the dialing it in, and as Alex said, it's the customer service. And it's really that, it's a really weird point in human history where, like a veteran-owned business, you got to have vets on the phone playing the role of pharmacists for each other. But yeah, okay, let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a weird thing. But it's a good point you brought up about the pharmacists. I never really thought of it like that. They should be, just go back to the old times. Like, what did you do? What was your job back in the day? Like, what did your ancestor pharmaceutical professional do? He actually sat down and talked to you and said, let's work with you, you know? But now it's just,
and they help you with over-the-counter drug use. Just being smarter about over-the-counter drug use. You used to be able to go, and I mean, now people can use WebMD and Google shit and get the same effect if they have that initiative. But at some point, you want to talk to someone to tap knowledge that you don't even know that you don't know to look for, because you're just having some problem. And in the realm of cannabis products, I discover stuff like that all the time. And it's like, how is there not a decisive, like, how to use guide but part of it is that you will always want, if your brain's not working perfect, you might miss something. Hey, my brain's not working. What's going to help me dial it back in? You really want someone else to talk to.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. You need that uh, alternate professional, like educated, multiple years in school opinion and recommendation. But we see,
Yeah.
I think it's gotten better. But I mean, well, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. But it's let's be hopeful and do courses of action, and we can do it. We can do whatever we want. And like I say, like it's okay to be kind, and it's cool to be kind. We have a choice. Like it's Monday today. Do I want to be an asshole? Do I want to fuck somebody over? No. You can go and be kind and just help somebody out, or just stick to yourself. Don't be a dick. I mean, it's like just be positive and just move forward. Do something you want to do in your life. You don't have to do things you hate. It's like life is very long. Like why would you do something you hate? Like really, come on,
Speaking of which, I've never been to school for it, but I have been smoking weed for a long time, and I like telling people about it. But
Where are
Alex,
you right
I'll
now?
give you please take that. Closing thoughts. Anything else you want people to know? The website, really easy to remember, organicgrit.com. Alex, your final thoughts, please.
My final thoughts is, first off, thank you, Adam, for reaching out. Thank you for having me on your show, and I'd love to come on anytime you need me or want me to come on. We could talk about a bunch of stuff, make this like the Joe Rogan podcast, but make it like bigger. And no offense to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, you're good, but Adam is like really, really unfiltered. So, organic grit,
Like Joe Rogan plus Rush Limbaugh for a new era of the internet.
there we go.
Well, actually, Alex, before you close out, I should say, we do need to have a conversation off the air about potentially being involved with Homefront Battle Buddies and what we're doing for a retreat-based veteran service organization, specifically to explore alternatives outside of the mainstream. And I don't know if you've heard this sort of relevant part with my story, but I committed war crimes in Iraq, and I've talked about it all publicly. I have no, unresolved issues with that. But if I did, I'd be very unlikely to want to discuss it with someone in a government building.
Okay, understood. We'll offline. We'll talk about this organization, and I'm always down to pair up and collaborate with those helping our community, man. The veteran community, it's up to us to decide and how we want to move it. The VA is overwhelmed. I don't want to talk shit on them, but they're always overwhelmed, and they're still playing catch up, and it's okay. But it's up to us to do it.
Alex, hold on. Let me give you the polite, politically correct way to talk shit about the VA, okay? Because you can say there are a lot of good people who work there. There are a lot of good people who take pay cuts to work with veterans, who are in a fucked up government bureaucracy that makes it impossible to actually properly serve people and leads to endless headaches, mistakes, and gaps in care that are endlessly frustrating. And so veterans have to use the VA carefully, conscientiously, and know when not to use it as a result.
Absolutely. I actually have a VA appointment right now to get not right now, in about an hour, for my lung capacity for when I was in Afghanistan. There was like a lot of burning of tires and like feces and plastic. So I'm going for that, and it's pretty. We'll see how it goes. Could be my first VA appointment. Never done it, so they gave me this folder, and I'm gonna go in an hour or so. So.
I got a sidebar on that too for a second here, Alex, because when I got back from Iraq and got tested, they told me I had an acceptable level of depleted uranium in my system. I'm like, what? Wait, what's an acceptable level of depleted uranium? Like, how many burning tires is a soldier supposed to inhale per deployment? I'm sure the DoD has a number for that. But there are some experiments that have yet to be conducted or even fully conceived of high doses of cannabis consumption, of bombing your body with CBD for anti-carcinogenic effects, but also I think for cleansing effects that have yet to be fully explored. I'm just sort of theorizing here, but based on what I know, even from cleanses that don't include cannabis at all, there's going to be some application, and especially in a case like yours, where you have significant carcinogen exposure. Fuck, man, you got to bomb your body with as much anti-carcinogen as it can handle before you get to deleterious effects and as much as you can afford. And it's
Absolutely.
crazy to not know, but there's just pushing this out there. The work that we're doing and pushing this out there is getting to that next level application study being developed, and we're gonna just every day. Oh, cannabis does that too. Yeah, it cures that too. No shit.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you, Adam, and it's just gonna take time and persistence and consistency. But thank you, Adam, again for like having me on your show, and I hope you have a good day and everything like that. And I'm gonna get a good day as well pretty soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. We'll be in touch. Peace and love, brother. All right, so now we're gonna bring GI Mary Jane back on screen here if we can unfreeze my screen. And we're going to get into, well, we're going to do headlines together because we're going to have to do these really fast in order to get to our drug good news. There we go. All right. There's room for Mary Jane. So there's always room for Mary Jane. But so let's do the headlines first, because basically we're doing like a super abbreviated headline block so we can get to the good news on the drugs. But we have some bad news. First, this is from the Daily Beast on MSN.com. Mom, Minnesota cops killed son after stopping him on an air freshener violation. Police in the Minneapolis suburb of Brooklyn Center fatally shot a black 20-year-old man. Oh, he was black. Oh, shocking. During a traffic stop on Sunday afternoon, set off a string of violent protests amid tensions over the Derek Chauvin murder trial. Victim's mother spent much of Sunday afternoon at the scene of the fatal shooting, pleading with officers to remove the body of her son, Dante Wright, from the pavement.
Oh my God.
He got out of the car and his girlfriend said they shot him. Katie Wright said he got back in the car and he drove away and crashed. Now he's dead on the ground since 1:47. Nobody will tell us anything. Nobody will talk to us. I said, please take my son off the ground. Said he was, the victim's mother said her son called her during the traffic stop. She said was tied to the presence of air fresheners hanging in the car, which is an offense in Minnesota. Because there were air fresheners hanging from his rear view mirror.
Yeah. Worth dying over a murder.
Because he had an arrest warrant. So anyway, this is something we're probably going to hear more about. Is it going to be the next George Floyd kind of incident? I don't think so, but there's already pretty significant protests because of this, and it's a name you're going to want to know, Dante Wright. Add him to the list. Virginia state authorities to investigate police who threatened black army officer. This from NBC News. This is starting with some grim stories, I know. Town manager of Windsor, where the incident occurred, said one of the two officers involved has already been fired following an internal investigation. And the crazy thing about this, I mean, you watched the actual footage, right? And it's a guy in camis who drove at the speed limit to a well-lit area, and it looked like he was in a gas station, right?
Yeah, he pulled into a gas station to get pulled over safely.
And the cops were triggered by this enough to consider it fleeing. And so this was in December?
Yeah.
And so he's suing them, and now that's why this is coming out. I mean, at least it's coming out, you know, and I want to say this is a good story. Right, because how many times would this have happened without footage in the past? And I think that's, again, just this self-consciousness that is being created for cops is a really good thing, and it's slow, but it's soaking in. It's soaking in every day, every time we see a story. This is good. Cops being held accountable. Sad that they were able to do this in the first place. I mean, the guy's alive at least, right? He's not mortally or seriously wounded or injured or anything, right?
I did know, and I also read a story just a minute ago that the dog's doing okay. The dog got hurt in the backseat too. He got pepper sprayed as well, but
Okay,
the dog's
yeah,
okay.
All right. Woo! Oh, so here's some of this footage from this one, and this is just a cool story where because the body camera footage was released and they had the whole thing, and they had a victim here who was persistent, and like our friend Ant earlier, you know, he's in uniform. It's fucking nuts. He's not refusing to identify or anything like that. But the fact that, fuck you, I'm an Army lieutenant. You're going to insult me over my rank like they did in the traffic stop. Oh, really? Well, I'm not going to be a victim. And sometimes, I say, like, use the bullshit hero worshiping of the military or veterans community to be the battering ram to knock down bullshit that's hurting people who aren't. Like, and I said this at it was MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies fundraiser. You gotta say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, you do.
It was a fundraiser in San Francisco. I got to give a speech, and I was making the point, like, because they were raising the funds for MDMA for clinical trials for depression, and they were using veterans as the excuse. And it's like, hey, you know what though? It's not about us. It's about the survivors in Iraq who are going to really need that shit. And if you can get this to them, that's going to be way more important. It's the same thing with this, the police state. Like, you think dudes in camis, like actual in uniform soldiers, are getting harassed by cops? No, least as much as like any demographic in America, right? I mean, there's like, you want to talk about white privilege, militarism privilege.
Yeah.
Even if you're a dark green Marine, if you're in those dress blues, or you're in some kind of service uniform, even in camis, oh, you're a special citizen. You don't get white people discounts. I mean, you get white people 5-finger discounts because you get away with stealing shit without being followed around the store as much. But no, do you get like, no? But there you get military discounts. You get. Do we have priority seating on airplanes for white people? I mean, they call it first class, and it's mostly white people because that's where the money is. But no, they have priority boarding for active duty military and for family members and stuff like that. So, and in this case, the guy was black, right? Was he actually black? Okay. So black Army lieutenant. If we got to use his case to change police policy, to make sure that we don't disrespect the military with the police state by accident ever again. Hey, fucking A, this might be that case. Washington Post, also MSN.com, Boogaloo extremists destroyed evidence in probe of officer's murder. Feds say. An honest headline would say, Feds say at the beginning of the headline, and then you go, oh, so the rest of this, it primes your brain to go, oh, the rest of the sentence is probably bullshit. But the Washington Post and most mainstream journalists, prostitutes, I think is the technical term. Prostitutes. I like that. They, serve authority. They there's the Boogaloo thing. I mean, I have a business named after that. We are geodesic business is Big Igloo, bigigloo.biz. But like, I really do have mixed feelings on this because I know it's a lot of infiltrators and plants and online manipulation and trolls. And it's this sort of like angry right-ish libertarian, but what they're actually doing is going out and defending people at providing security against cops at BLM protests. So it's like, the reality of it is very anti-racism, like deliberately an activism, and there seems to be within it an ethos of, it's us, all of us of different colors against them in power, not us against each other, right? There's a sort of bottom unity, not anarchists necessarily, but bottom unity in the broader sense of bottom of the socioeconomic pyramid unified against those at the top. And so it seems like they're using it to demonize libertarianism a little bit, but we don't have time to get into that story today. So I'll take this as my.
You want to demonize libertarian?
I'll take this as the opportunity to remind you to go to t.me/Adam versus the Man for all the links if you want to get into any more of these stories. Now, this was the protest that Joey was watching live over the weekend. GazetteExtra.com, LA Times, actually, original source. KKK flyers, White Lives Matter rally, Huntington Beach confronts storm of hate. For years, Huntington Beach has tried to push back against its reputation as a magnet for extremist hate. Those efforts weren't helped last year when the city's downtown and pier became a rallying spot for anti-mask activists and far-right supporters of then President Donald Trump. Now the city is bracing for a White Lives Matter rally Sunday. So, Joey, what did you see?
I saw a cluster of people here, and they were all arguing across the street. I saw a man get arrested with a big flagpole that had the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, a Trump flag, and I forget what the third.
This is
flag
going to
was.
be the
I think it was
iconic
the Blue Lives
picture of this rally that he got arrested. The flags out the car, out the window of
The
a
cops are
police
trying to
like
hold it
SUV. Like they're flying his flag sort of unintentionally awkwardly out the side window because, they had to take him for evidence.
It was cute.
Didn't
But
know how to take him apart.
I didn't see any violence. I didn't watch the whole time, of course, but seemed like a bunch of people being upset about two different issues and spatting about it. But I guess peaceful protests are good.
All right, so we go now to a couple headlines that we couldn't avoid about COVID. And first, from the Caribbean island of St. Vincent, this headline from InfoWars: only vaccinated people can be evacuated from island to escape volcano, says Prime Minister. And that's,
Seriously?
you guys, why aren't you taking this seriously? Yeah, no, this is a real, it's InfoWars. It's going to be sensationalized. But how iconic of this whole COVID vaccine, bigger fight, like disadvantaged people bullshit. Oh, yeah, well, we can't evacuate you onto our little life rafts because if you're not vaccinated, you're going to be close to people who are. Well, if they're vaccinated, they're supposed to be safe from us crazy, wild, unvaccinated, organic people. So yeah, just a really fun, like, oh shit, please meme this. This is going to be interesting. We'll see what's really. I don't know how much there is to that story, but just a fun, like, iconic one. But here's another one. Remember the 5th of November that happened in 2019 before COVID was a thing. But no, to Sicily. Our next headline from France24.com. But no, remember in the early phases of this, Italy was the hotbed. It was China, Italy, right? And then there's one other early country, but it was Italy was the big one. Italy was holy shit. I mean, China's epicenter, but then all of a sudden, it hit Italy. What, aging population, something like that. Specific vulnerability they had. But no, they were victimized by this medical tyranny with whatever they were experiencing for their COVID season, as super exaggerated in order to push lockdown shutdowns. And this is why one of the iconic parts of this whole story is singing across the balcony to balcony, across, from apartment building to apartment building, playing music in Italy. It's thing is, I realized that it was naive before I saw it, so it wasn't beautiful to me. It was just like, oh, they fell for it. Like, yeah, okay, it's beautiful, but they fell for it, right? Okay, but check this out. They're not falling for it anymore. This is from yesterday. Fresh story. Up to 80% in Sicily refuse AZ vaccine.
It's a big number.
President. Weird headline attribution, but AZ is AstraZeneca COVID-19. Now, this is just this specific vaccine, and it's not all of them. That would be better if it was all of them. It's like just 80% of people going like, no, COVID, don't need the vaccine. Flu, no, don't need an annual flu shot. But this is specifically around AstraZeneca, and it was from the Southern Italian region's president, Neo Musumeci, which is the only reason I'm covering the story. I wanted to say that name.
Cool.
Nello Musumeci, something like that. Public confidence in the Anglo-Swedish jab has been badly shaken by reports linking it to rare but potentially fatal blood clots and by conflicting recommendations on its use. In Sicily, there's an 80% refusal rate of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Every 100 people, 80 say no. And is that the only one they're offering there? Probably not. There are others out there, but it's a good sign that even in Italy, there's at least enough skepticism. Because if it's 80% refusing one vaccine, you know, and they're probably not going to let it get out. They're going to say, oh, well, it's this. I mean, maybe they're going to say the narrative is, well, yeah, that vaccine's bad, so you better get our vaccine because our vaccine is good. Over here, we got the Moderna and we got the Pfizer jabs. No, don't do that.
My
The
guy's
AZ,
got their
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, we got the good stuff over here. So to this, Italy is one of the countries worst hit by the pandemic, according to the government narrative. With almost 114,000 dead, but its vaccination drive has been criticized for failing to focus on the most at-risk group, the elderly. Yeah, okay. Only 2.7% fully vaccinated compared to 4.1% for people in their 20s. And you think about this. So overall, Italy has administered almost 13 million doses and fully vaccinated 3.9 million people, equal to around 6.5% of a total population of some 60 million.
You're not buying it.
It's so I don't know if that's just, hey, this is a slow process or people aren't buying it, but at very least skepticism is slowing it down. So I think we can take some comfort in knowing that just in the age of the internet, even the general public isn't going just, oh yeah, government says the shot's ready, I'm eligible, give me the. Hey, like Google that shit before you go and look it up. You know, at least there are enough people doing that when a specifically bad one comes out, you get an 80% refusal rate, even in Italy. From the Associated Press, Iran calls Natanz atomic site blackout nuclear terrorism. I'm just going to have to say we're coming back to this. This follow-up story from The Guardian. Israel appears to confirm it carried out cyber attack on Iran nuclear facility. This is very hot news. I know this was a headline that I wanted to cover today, sort of urgent news, but there's no way we're even going to get to this in time. We're going to have some more developments on this tomorrow. But given that we have less than 14 minutes left in the show, I think it's time to get to our Ganja Good News block, yeah?
Indeed.
I was not ready. Smoke weed every day. Sorry. I'll have to give it to you a cappella because I was not ready for that. I accidentally used that page for something else. So sorry.
All right.
Serenade.
Do we have any links from the comment contest of people's contributions to our pile of good news in the drug war? That was a pretty complicated contest we did today. Did we just lose Jim too?
Involved homework.
So
Well,
I guess we're gonna try to get through.
I don't know if this is part of the contest, but you're getting fucked. Heavy metal. It's a YouTube link. Mr. Freak and the Freak Show band. That sounds like it sums it up pretty well. The drug war. We're getting fucked.
No, that's not what we were talking about. But thank you. I don't know if you want to pull that up. We'll play it. We'll review your musical suggestions for tomorrow's show. But no, we're looking, and before we get to the end of the show, we're looking for any other good news in the drug war front if you want to get to this today. But if you get the comments in, we'll jump right into it. Well, let's start with the issue of federal legalization or decrim, descheduling, whatever it is, because that's the next big turning point, right? And we've talked about us being at the beginning of the end of the war on drugs, and I think as of the election of November 2020, we entered the new phase of the middle. We're still in the beginning of the middle of the end of the war on drugs, and the beginning phase is get cannabis irrefutable momentum, get the majority of I think we crossed majority recreational.
Totally.
Did we? So I mean, like that's huge. I mean, like just step back and celebrate that now we go to Kentucky and make fun of it for being prohibition territory. Like
2/3 of the country has some sort of legal.
Or is it 2/3? Yeah, med or rec.
Or
so we're not at majority rec yet, but
Close.
we're also, we've got the holes in the dam for mushrooms, at least in the whole state of Oregon, decrim for personal possession. In Denver County, decrim. That was actually a little bit earlier. Oakland also, Oakland, California. I think there are a few other small local pockets where it's not as decisive as some of those places, but it's effectively decrim to the point. And you still got to worry about federal liabilities, even with cannabis. But the This is why I think this is the big turning point that will define the middle of the end of the war on drugs. That really, and this is sort of the big question right now. How soon and in what steps do we get federal action on cannabis? So the headline, okay, Jim's got the map pulled up. There it is. Not a lot of gray states. They're all different shades of green, from med, fully legalized, to med and rec, or just med, or decrim. Fully illegal. I mean, look at that. There's Kentucky. You got Idaho, Wyoming. Was that Kansas, Kentucky, Georgia?
South Carolina. Yeah.
South Carolina, and Mississippi. Alabama. Sorry, Alabama. Excuse me, Alafrickin-Bammans. But yeah, it's the minority. Was it 6 states? Is that it? Yeah.
And Virginia is legal
6 states
recreationally now, the first
where
state in the South.
where cannabis is completely illegal, and even in those states, they're really on the line. Like when we were in Kentucky, retail CBD everywhere,
All over.
gas stations, head shops. They sell Delta 8, which I'm not promoting, but to say that they're like able to sell it in the open. They were doing CBD dabs at head shops at one point at the Botany Bay. I don't know why they stopped. They stopped for COVID. They give you a plastic tip, but your mouth is closed. You might cough COVID on the. Yeah, it was a health department thing. That was it. But so here's where we are from the headlines. Politico.com. Schumer. Senate will act on marijuana legalization with or without Biden. The majority leader shared his plans for cannabis legalization with Politico in an exclusive interview. And by the way, about Biden, I think, like purging, getting Kamala Harris as,
The worst
a
thing
cop
that could ever happen.
a drug warrior, and that they purged White House staffers who had any history of cannabis use, that they were able to identify. I mean, it was sick. It's like, in order to get rid of Trump, the pharmaceuticals were able to get their favorite Democrat in, who's gonna oppose it. I don't think he can. How long can Biden, if cannabis legalization gets through Congress,
All he can do is veto, right? He's got very little power.
how dare he?
And that's gonna be a problem. I don't think so.
Would he veto cannabis decrim or
It's a real bad
scheduling?
look.
Yeah,
Real bad look.
you would have so many people lighting up in front of the White House in protest that you get high in the Oval Office. Yes, no. So really, as much as Kamala Harris and Joe Biden can, President Harrison and what's his name, can keep the police state going strong and let the cat out of the bag as slowly as possible. The pharmaceutical companies got what they wanted, but I don't think they can hold back much for much longer when it comes to cannabis. So anyway, the story starts. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer really likes to talk about weed. Well, maybe more smoking, less talking. Schumer has been making waves on cannabis policy since he first introduced a bill to legalize marijuana in April 2018, part of his pitch for voting Democrat in 2020. And now, with the majority in hand, he is putting together new federal marijuana reform legislation with Senators Cory Booker and Ron Wyden, Democrats of New Jersey and Oregon, respectively. This week, Schumer's home state of New York legalized marijuana use for adults after years of failed efforts. More than 40% of Americans now live in states that have embraced full legalization. So almost over 40% of the population. That's a more important count than states. We go really how many Americans are affected by policy. And for a lot of people, like I was saying, hey, move to Arizona. We're gonna have rec weed here. Not special anymore. But what comes next? So we'll come back to this when we see, maybe a more specific proposal from these 3 new gurus of federal cannabis decrim, Booker, Wyden, and Schumer. Schumer being statesman of the 3 there.
I don't hate Booker. I have it on good authority that the July 4th smoke-in may
Well,
be
because
more of
he's
a
young and
celebration.
he's light brown and he's cool.
He
you know,
does
like,
good for
he's-
weed legislation. Just he really he's really come to bat for the BS bills that are in
Because
the House.
if the banking class wants New Jersey to have someone who votes reliably for the banking corporate system, it's got to be a hip, young, ethnic dude who's pro cannabis.
And you just said it, the banking. I think the movement that we'll see on prohibition is that states will have access to federal banking. I
Okay,
think
but that's
gonna be the first
that's
federal.
not no, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about just see, if Cory Booker wants credibility with me, he has to be more than friendly to cannabis or even actively pro cannabis. He has to be anti-war and he has to be anti-banking.
You're not gonna get
And
that
if you're
with me.
and I will forgive you for not being libertarian. You know, like if you haven't figured out the way that I have figured out to see the world and understand government, that's fine. But to say I'm a good guy because I'm pro cannabis, if you're also pro war and pro banking, fuck you. It's a front. It's
You're right.
bullshit.
I can't argue that.
So I can't in good conscience say Cory Booker's a good guy. No. Sorry. Okay, so next, talk about good news here. Also, Politico, Coke-backed group joins marijuana push after Zoom with Snoop Dogg. I just want to talk about Snoop Dogg on the show since we play him,
Why not?
his voice every day in music. The Cannabis Freedom Alliance could change the dynamics of the marijuana legalization debate. What do you get when weed-loving rapper Snoop Dogg, right-wing billionaire Charles Koch, and criminal justice reform advocate Weldon Angelos walk into a Zoom room? The Cannabis Freedom Alliance, a new coalition launching Tuesday, they could change the dynamics of the marijuana legalization debate, as first reported by Politico. Well, I guess it's like enough people have realized there's enough money in it, right? That's good news.
It's good news. Is it?
What you got to have an opinion on Snoop Dogg separately, or Snoop Lion? We're supposed to call him Snoop Lion.
Snoop Lion, is that a new? I didn't hear about
Yeah,
that.
Snoop Lion. Snoop Lion. No, when he went reggae, he went from Snoop Dogg to Snoop Lion. Are you not keeping up?
Yeah, I keeping
You're
up
not
with Snoop
keeping
Dogg
up.
and being a bad
Snoop
story.
I guess. But do you have an opinion of him as a cannabis activist?
I think there's a whole lot more he could do. But I think there's a whole lot more that all of these celebrities could do, really. But I also understand that they're bound by their agents and their contracts. And
Being celebrity ain't easy.
being a celebrity
getting to
means
be a
you,
celebrity.
yeah, you give up a bunch of your freedom to whoever is managing you. But yeah, there is so much.
Well, in compromise, you have to compromise activism or ethical aspirations in order to maintain your celebrity status. And if you don't, someone else will.
They don't
it's
play by the
competitive.
game, they're going to get buried like everybody else.
Yeah.
So, what do I think? I mean, I think if they are being as loud as they possibly can without losing that venue, that stage that they have to continue to speak, then good on them. But if they're just accepting what they're doing,
Right.
and it's hard to say which is happening.
All right, so we have a really cool feature now because this is from Eat This Not That Health, Amelia Paluchik. What smoking marijuana every day does to your body. This is on MSN.com. And to be fair, it's like in order to do this, they have to say some of the positives. I still think this is a hit piece. We'll get to why. So this is a 15 slideshow. Slide 2. First, the positive effects. Yes, okay. So slide 3, it can relieve your pain. Obviously, you know, it's funny. I have enjoyed relaxing and getting high and anti-anxiety, and distracting from pain, but I've never really used cannabis in any way. CBD for some like muscle or deep strain kind of things or specific little stuff here and there, but it's never had that. I have some back pain.
I have topically.
It's really just not sufficient yoga is my problem. I might need to up my yoga dosage.
A good THC sounds great.
So point 3, yeah, no, I was thinking about that in the interview with Alex. Like when they dial that in, just slap it on your back like icy hot, which doesn't really work for me anyway. That's gonna be a thing. Actually, I've had that. No, I did use a seat when I had this really bad cramp here. It was a yoga injury, incidentally. I'll tell the story some other
It's
time.
a cute
but
story.
do you go overtime for me to tell the story in a minute? All right. So I was in New Orleans in a yoga class, and it was in a room full of hot women wearing yoga pants. So I had to be really impressive. And I was in this pose like this, with my arms stretched out and like on my side. And so I had to like, see, that's what I was doing. I was knocking people out of the way, left and right. But no, I flexed my middle back, and I felt this little pinch. I was fine through the rest of the session. Went home, took a shower, felt great, woke up, excruciating pain, like debilitating pain, like pinched a nerve, but like on it, pain right there, tingling down my arm, couldn't move kind of pain. I went to the VA, to the ER. They were able to see me only I couldn't make an appointment. No, heaven forbid. There's no urgent care equivalent at the VA. And this is a dumb VA story too, because they said, oh, it's a tear, don't touch it. And so
Okay,
I isolated it. They gave me patches for the pain. And 3 days later, I was like, this isn't getting any better. This is not a tear. I just sort of figured out from my own poking. Well, I went to the VA a second time and got more drugs and no more help. And then I was like, you know what? So I went to the gym and tried to work around it. And I just started rubbing on something. I was like, oh my God, I feel so good. And it turns out, yeah, it was a muscle cramp that's like now semi-permanent because we just sat on it. And then I had our friend, a masseuse down there, like elbow grind on it for an hour on a seated chair. But yeah, so for that I used a CBD roller, and it was actually very helpful. Number 3 can lead to less anxiety. Yeah, we're familiar with that. Next slide is an advertisement, I believe. Number 4, it can regulate blood sugar. I didn't actually know that, but that's pretty cool. Number 5, it can lower your cholesterol. Damn.
Wow.
Like, yeah, okay, cool. It can lower your BMI if you don't snack. And this is kind of funny, and I'll read this whole paragraph for this one. It can lower your BMI if you don't snack. Despite the common feeling of having the munchies after using marijuana, cannabis users tend to weigh less and are less likely to be obese. No shit. Yeah, and this is I covered this years ago. But I'll take every excuse to point out that, like, yeah, pot smokers versus not pot smokers, on average, pot smokers healthier weight. That is irrefutable by multiple studies and surveys at this point. So they have a lower BMI, says Dr. Clifton. According to the CDC, BMI, aka body mass index, is a screening tool used to identify individuals who are underweight, overweight, or obese. Now, there's one thing that would actually skew it the other way, because like I have so much muscle, not to brag about it, but I'm naturally thick enough that even when my body fat is relatively low, if you just go by body mass index, which is basically like weight to height ratio, I'm borderline obese at the weight I'm at right now. And it's because I smoke pot and then go lift weights. Like, that's what it makes me want to do. And it's
another way to do it.
Maybe it's because that's how I deal with the munchies. It's like I want to justify eating lots of food. But even when I'm not smoking weed, that's my attitude. Is like, I only lift weights so I can eat more ice cream. Okay, so it can lower your BMI. Yeah. Now the negative effect. Dun dun dun. You can develop cannabis use disorder, as in anything bad happens to you while you're smoking pot. We're gonna call it cannabis use disorder. And it's like, if you die from smoking too much cannabis, don't worry, they'll blame COVID. But you can't. It's impossible. But here it says that it's tolerance, and you don't get the euphoria. And it's interesting because this is true for some people. To call it a use disorder is fuck you. No, it's just people have different ways of developing tolerance, right? And that's a thing.
Totally.
So some people go ahead.
I've taken 90-day tea breaks and have been so excited to get back and get stoned again, and it just doesn't happen for me because my body has different needs. Endocannabinoid system is different from yours and somebody else's. So yeah, this disorder thing, I call bullshit on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of like alcohol addiction if you want to pathologize it. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to close that. I meant to go to the next tab. Just a second, everybody. Recent history. There we go.
Yay.
Now I lost the other story, but here we go. Cannabis use disorder for the bad things. Next slide after that. It could increase your cardiovascular risk. Now, this is an interesting one. It says marijuana has been shown to cause a fast heartbeat and elevated blood pressure, which can be dangerous for people with heart disease. It may also aggravate other pre-existing heart conditions in long-term users and those who are older, placing them at greater risk of a cardiovascular event. I don't buy this. This is because they're saying could increase because we see that it gives you a fast heartbeat and elevated blood pressure. You know what else gives you a fast heartbeat and elevated blood pressure? Masturbation. Oh, coffee. That's what I was going to say. No, exercise. Hello, exercise. So yes, in a certain portion of the population, if you get them exercising from being sedentary, they're going to, yes, duh, cardiovascular risk. No shit. So trying to attribute that to cannabis, I don't buy it. I think this is like her editor saying, you know, oh, you got to write it like this. But number 10 here, it can tamper your coordination and response issues. Coordination and response time are adversely affected, and short-term memory is often impaired. Coordination issues in conjunction with an altered experience of time are likely to be blamed for impaired driving and an increase in car accidents. And here's the thing. It's not actually true. And so we go to reason.org for our next link to counter this particular study or this particular claim. Like, no, I'm sorry. You can't just demonize weed with bullshit because, oh, I think it's going to cause more car accidents. No, because, and I will say that there might be a limited circumstance where someone gets so stoned, they're on couch lock, they don't want to get up. Those people aren't driving cars anyway. It's not like drunk people going out and driving aggressively and having accidents. But here's the thing: is now we have the significant numbers in places where it's been legal. Say to answer the question. So Reason.org has this study. September 2018. Does marijuana legalization increase traffic accidents? And I'm just going to skip down. These lots of graphs, lots of charts. They have a conclusion. There are few convincing conclusions to be drawn concerning the risk of traffic accident fatalities for marijuana legalization. Studies looking at the prevalence of drivers impaired by THC are prone to overestimate crash risk because of other risk factors such as age and the great difficulty of measuring impairment from THC. Further, alcohol use could inflate data if a driver has both a positive BHC and THC in their system. Increased testing for THC, especially for trace amounts, could also be contributing to the rise of so-called marijuana-related accidents. Another way they're trying to fake this, some studies, especially concerning medical marijuana, suggest that marijuana legalization might actually reduce fatalities by reducing drunk driving. All in all, no conclusive or definitive pattern related to cannabis legalization patterns, have appeared in the data or research to this point. So with all the data at this point, it's no.
It's great when data calls out their bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest argument for any legalization bill is the traffic accident. It's really the biggest argument they have on the floor anymore. So thank you, Reason, for making all those awesome charts.
All right, so let me see if I can fuck up my browser. Here we go. We go back to our slideshow. What smoking marijuana every day does to your health, because there's more to this. Let's see. How hot is our hotspot this morning? It's cold. Cold hotspot. Oh, it's because it's refreshing drudge over there, right? No, come on, give me my slideshow because we have more to refute in this. Should I reload it?
Your arrows moved.
No, that's see, it's a different story.
Weird.
Should I refresh? It shouldn't take this long to load the slideshow. It should have put us back in the slideshow where we were and not lost our. Oh, now we don't have any connection. That's what it is. What are we connected to?
Here we go.
To Pat, is your hotspot still live there? It says it's connected. Okay, here we go. Oh, we go. Don't touch it. We got it. We're good. All right, all reloaded. Okay, so the last was number 10. Can tamper your coordination and response issues. 11, it can lead to respiratory issues. And this is definitely true, but what's interesting is how they're trying to compare it to smoking cigarettes and demonizing it, and that's wrong for a couple of reasons. But let's hear their side of the case, or the argument here. Well, smoking cannabis daily has less of an impact than smoking cigarettes, says Dr. Carrie Clark. Some people who smoke cannabis can end up with issues like chronic cough and excess mucus or phlegm production. The most deadly aspect is that it increases your risk of lung cancer 7% per year. However, these symptoms can improve with cessation. Now, I think, yes, there is, with the use of it, you can irritate your breathing.
Sure.
And like, you can make yourself cough, and you can, if you
Smoking.
get mucus irritation, just like, inhaling a whole host of pollutants, right? You're inhaling hot air. Now, that's why I like a bong, because it's cool. The smoke goes through the water. And so the heat irritation of whatever, you can say, I'm still inhaling particulate matter, but the heat, it's now like the smoke becomes close enough to room temperature that can't be said to be an aggravating factor at all. And the next thing is vaping. I mean, you vape, you take that out entirely. Like, and I don't do that. If you notice, I smoke pot during the show, and sometimes it affects my voice. It gets a little rough or gravelly or dry or whatever. But here's the thing. So this next, so I think that's a sort of a moderatable thing that goes with smoking if you choose to do it. But the 7% of lung cancer per year, that's serious. Let's look at that. Now, since they're comparing cannabis to cigarettes, I decided we Google this. And go, well, if cannabis, you can increase your risk of lung cancer 7% per year. What about tobacco? What percent is that? Is it 8%, 9%, 10%? Is it less than that? Who knows? Well, so I Googled how much do cigarettes increase chance of lung cancer? People who smoke cigarettes are 15 to 30 times more likely to get lung cancer or die from lung cancer than people who do not smoke. So 1,500, 3,000 versus 7%. That's just putting things in perspective here, as we like to do. So you think about like all the pollution. What's that? That 7% is probably from the paper you're smoking, rolling a joint, compared to
you're combusting plant matter. So there's gonna be carbon, right? But minimal.
There have been studies that showed if you smoke just cigarettes versus cigarettes with cannabis, if you had a normal smoker's risk of lung cancer, but if you smoke the same amount of cigarettes but put cannabis on top, it actually had an overall anti-carcinogenic effect. So it might be that, because people who smoke cannabis have a lower body mass index, and they're sexier, and they're more active, and they're getting out, they're breathing more of your bullshit pollution coming out of your vehicles. For all you fat people driving to the gas station, to the Walmart, to the Golden Corral, to home, like, I'll stop making fun of fat people. But to fat people who hate on cannabis, no, sorry, you're wrong. I'm not the anomaly here. And yeah, it is so insignificant as that to say that, to compare cannabis to cigarettes by saying 7%. No. Memory issues. Now, I had a really perfect response to this one, but I forgot it. Do you remember? No, okay. Long-term marijuana use can decrease an individual's performance on memory-related tasks and cause a decrease in motivation and interest in everyday activities. The effect of cannabis temporarily prevents the brain from developing new memories and learning new things, which is a form of short-term memory. And I think this is something that is hugely exaggerated, but it's a real thing with cannabis. But the decrease in motivation and interest in everyday activities, it's sort of like then it's like addiction to anything. You can get addicted. Yes, you can get addicted if you're, and I hate to say it like to be demeaning, but like if you're a loser with nothing going on in your life, it's probably better for you to just be a couch locked addict, pot smoker until you figure that shit out than any other drug you could get, or any other addiction you could be self-soothing with. But yes, it can become an addictive self-soothing behavior. But does it cause the lack of motivation? That probably in some people you can genuinely say it makes it worse, but that's a small minority at best. So just to
can't even note it. They
This-
shouldn't
yeah.
be there.
And the short-term memory thing, yeah, there is. I think there's something to that. Grossly exaggerated. I mean, I do the show. I remember what I said 2 hours ago. I remember, the plan for the show throughout. I don't have notes. I didn't write down the outline. Like, it's all in my head still while smoking pot. Am I a functional stoner? Would I be better without it in some ways? And when I detox, I do notice there's a crispness in my memory that maybe wasn't there before, but I think that's maybe because I'm doing mushrooms and it's enhancing it. So
I don't know, 6 traumatic brain injuries and 38 stitches in my head. I tend to remember things better when I'm smoking.
and for a lot of people, those positive effects, even if your technical chemical memory capacity is reduced by 10%, you're able to realize that 90% because your anxiety's out of the way now, instead of your anxiety reducing your memory formation and your presence and enjoyment of life down, all of those things down to under 50. So it might, have some sort of chemical effect on memory creation, but the overall functional memory effect might be positive, and definitely is positive for people for whom it's symptom control that interferes with functional memory in a bigger way. And that really needs to be studied, and that's definitely insufficiently understood. Last one here can affect your developing brain, and this is for kids and for adolescents, and we don't understand this enough. I think it is overblown, and I think to keep kids from being tempted by alcohol, understanding when and how it's safe for people to use cannabis, because it might be that you shouldn't use it in an unbridled way or in specific ways until you're 21, or what is it, 26, that they say the brain is still developing to a certain level.
That's why we don't give our kids soda, because the caffeine does the same thing to their developing brain. So anything.
You mean good parents don't give their kids soda? Who's this we? Yeah, there's a lot of bad parents out there. All right, so finally, insider.com at MSN. A man says psychedelic mushrooms cured his cluster migraines, and researchers believe he could be right. Yay. Bob Wold, 20 years trying 70 drugs in an attempt to treat his debilitating cluster headaches. Wasn't until he tried magic, they put in quotes, mushrooms, a psychedelic drug, that he found relief. The FDA approved the first ever cluster headache drug in 2019, but psychedelics may be an alternate solution. Oh, you mean this thing that nature has had here for millennia, that we just invented this shitty pharmaceutical version of? This might be the alternate here.
Man knows better, of course.
Yeah, maybe there's an alternate somewhere. Perhaps the universe has envisioned something. All right, finally, health.blurtit.com, and I don't know, this is just kind of a funny like side to round out this block and follow up on a question from the audience. How do you preserve cocaine over a long period of time without using it? Does putting it in the refrigerator really work? And she says, Sarah Marsh answered, like most prescription drugs and other substances, cocaine can begin to lose its strength and effectiveness after a while. This decrease may be sped up if the cocaine is stored in an unsuitable place. Most consumables last longest in a cool, dry, and dark place as a rule. Same can be applied to cocaine. Fridge can be the way of doing that. But it doesn't really say like how long, because that's what we want to do. We want to like compare it as a savings device. So the jury is still out, according to this answer, unfortunately. Finally, DNYUZ.com. Are your illegal drugs pure? New Zealand will check them for you for a small fee. Yeah, no, I don't know about going to government for this, but getting drugs out, tested more, however it happens, I mean, without sending people to jail, preferably, is generally good. So New Zealand has enshrined into law a 1-year experiment allowing drug users to have illegal substances tested without penalty to ensure their authenticity and to weed out dangerous chemicals. Exactly. The testers will not call the police. The drug users will not be thrown in jail, but the police will be able to see you taking your drugs in and out. I don't know how that works. Or at least going out of the facility. New Zealand on Friday became what is believed to be the second country to formally legalize such drug checks after the Netherlands. So they're not inventing this system. This has been tested. It's not like, oh, we're setting people up. The European nation began a similar program in 1999. I think I remember that. It was a long time ago. Yeah, 22 years. Though the practice is spreading around the globe. So anyway, that's it for today's show. Final thoughts while I smoke your weed because my bong is empty.
Final thoughts, I pass joints, not judgment, and then pass me that bowl. No. Final thoughts. I'm going back to your prediction that this will be the year something happens federally, and just keep good vibes on that, guys. We need some movement.
All right, take us home, Jim.
Yo, good show. Excellent. Yeah, we're a little bit over time, so I'm going to make it extra super quick and just, yeah, it's going to be lightning round. Everybody go to the website that you see at the bottom of the screen, adamvstheman.com, and do all the things. Click all the buttons, one of which is a cigarfederation.com. That's going to bring you all kinds of cigars that you can use a promo code Adam10 to get a discount from. You can shop at the shop on our website, and you'll get 15% off and free shipping if you're a Producers Cover Better patron. And you should check out the Instagram Garden of Freedom. At the Garden of Freedom is the tag for Instagram to see everything that Adam's been up to in there in Gardenia. HelpTheCrypto6.com. We've showed you that page. It has all the links for you to be able to help those guys out. And lastly, if you want to educate yourself, Going Green, solar power, wind power, that's Go Green Energy Online. Definitely check them out. Awesome resource. And that's all. But it looks like your camera froze during the middle of my promos. So in a very interesting pose. You guys, there they go. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to give them just a few seconds. I guess I could this just became Jim versus Man. I already got the shirt on, so that's cool. Anyways, he should be back any second. Close out the show. His battery probably died. Yeah, phone overheated. Be back in a minute. So they'll be back in just a second. So you should still go to Go Green Energy Online. That's my favorite promo recently, probably because it's the newest one. But it's a great website, and it's a great guy that runs it. That was there. Give Adam one of these micro wind power turbines. Adam has one on his Instagram right now. So this website can help you get one on your property, serving as long as you live in North America, granted. So definitely check out this website because if you use any of the resources there, it's going to help a great resource, a great off-grid promoter. So definitely check that out. Adam was going to scroll through the good news so we can go ahead and get ready for that. Well, oh, I heard the beep. He's back. He's back, people. He's back.
All right. Ready to sign off.
Hold on, we'll switch back to Adam versus Man.
We had the heater going on in here, and it's too warm in the studio. But anyway, from goodnewsnetwork.org, this day in history was 60 years ago today. Yuri Gagarin became the first human to travel into outer space, orbiting the Earth aboard Vostok 1. Someone had to be the first. Will you be the next? That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Mwah. Peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.